What's the most embarrassing thing you saw someone doing because they thought nobody was watching? During my maturing days as a 14-year-old boy, I had discovered online porn. I mean, really, who didn't? But was unaware of the browser history being able to be checked by anyone else using the family computer. My interest at the time was a website called myfriendshotmom.com, which I would frequently visit when trying to release teenage angst. One night at dinner, my parents sat us kids down to talk to us about something very disturbing they found in the browser history and had very serious looks on their faces. Naturally, having grown up in a Christian home with two other brothers, I knew my porn obsession was found out. My parents began to talk to us about violence and their worry about the glorification of violence online, etc. Naturally, I was very confused, as this was not the discussion I was expecting. My mother, obviously the more jolted by what she found online, blurted out, "I'm just very worried because someone in this family has been looking at a website called My Friend Shot Mom, and it's made me very uncomfortable." I didn't say a fucking word to correct her. Crisis averted. Okay, so back when I was still living with mom, she had one of her friends up for the week with her son. There wasn't enough room in the house for them to stay inside, so they decided to camp out in the backyard. Now, I was working construction at the time and was up pretty early to get ready. The one morning while I was putting my lunch together, I looked out the kitchen window to see my mom's friend, squatting over a plastic bag taking a shit in it, right there in the open. One of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. And then she proceeds to walk inside with her bag of fresh shit to get rid of it, and stops dead in her tracks when she realizes that I'm up. To this day, I don't understand why, if her plan was to come inside to get rid of it, why she didn't just walk inside and use the fully functional toilet and just cut out squatting over a plastic bag in the middle of a field. Every summer, my friends and I go to a water park. As we are adults, we often like to drink while we're at the water park. So one summer, we were sitting in the bar area that the water park had set up. Enjoying overpriced beer, there was a woman sitting at a picnic table just below the balcony of the bar. She slides back so that her rear end is hanging over the bench and just pees right there on the AstroTurf while still chatting with her friends. She thought that no one had seen her and that she had gotten away with it, but we saw and thought it was absolutely disgusting. I do freelance work at sports events. One time, between setup and the time the game started, I was standing at the top of a hill that leads up to the building. I looked around to make sure nobody was there, then I laid down and rolled down that fucker. It was super steep and it was awesome. I got up, brushed myself off, and went back inside to work. Found out the next week that my boss had seen me and had told everybody on the crew. Joy. Whenever my shift is quiet, I take a couple minutes break and go practice doing handstands on the nice grass by our building. I'm awful and can hold it for about 2 seconds before I flip over and land hard on my arse. Last week, the security guy offhandedly mentioned there's a CCTV camera that points almost exactly at that location. He's been watching me handstand for about 2 weeks. When I was in 3rd grade, I let out a ginormous loud fart I thought would be silent. I was mortified. Everyone in the class erupted with laughter and the teacher started asking, "Who did that?" I was so afraid someone would point to me, but before they could, a hero named Alex raised his hand and said it was him. He was always a weird kid, so people believed it, and that was that. IDK if he was being nice or just likes taking credit for farts, but I wish I could thank him. I saw an old man jerking off underneath his table at a New Orleans strip club. I didn't say anything because it took him about 20 seconds, and I was so drunk that I only had one eye open. There's different rules in New Orleans after midnight. Was this odd guy in my school who'd spit onto his hands and wipe down his leg hair? I knew a kid who would do this and wipe his hair. He smelled really gross, and would do it more the more nervous he got. 1, spit and wipe hair. 2, get seen being gross. 3, become nervous. 4, spit and wipe hair. 5, get seen being grosser. 6, become even more nervous. 7, spit and wipe hair. 8, repeat endlessly. Some say he's entirely made of spit and hair now. I once saw a girl holding an ice cream cone in one hand and her phone in the other lick the screen of her phone. When we made eye contact and she realized I'd seen it happen, she looked like she was going to die. One of the few memories I have of my sweet southern grandma is when we were having a popsicle on our front porch. I had also recently found a bird feather and couldn't part with it. In the chaos of popsicle time with grandma, I accidentally licked the feather. My grandma laughed so incredibly hard, I'll never forget her laugh and the joy my absent-mindedness always brought her. Used to go to an old-style gym years ago with an open shower setup. I hated to use the shower, but I'd work out before work and I'd have to get up even earlier to work out, then go back home to shower, then turn back around for work. So the gym shower made more sense. One day I was done working out and was heading towards the shower when I hear someone yell, "What the fuck are you doing?" I got there in time to see some dude with an erection turning beet red because he got caught jerking off in the public shower. He apologized over and over as he walked out, but you could tell he was mortified. I don't know what he thought could happen doing that in a public shower. Maybe he was excited by the thought, then once he got caught felt really stupid. Anyway, that guy was clearly ashamed of himself and I've never seen anyone look more embarrassed, so I am going to have to go with that. I was in a meeting in my client's boardroom. The boardroom was at ground level and the exterior glass was mirrored on the outside, but see-through from inside. In the middle of the meeting, some sketchy-looking dude comes over and starts picking his teeth in the mirror. Then he looks left, looks right, sees he has privacy, so he whips out his junk and starts inspecting it in the mirror. He then started trying to pop dick pimples or something. My client just got up, walked over to the glass and gave a little rap on the window in front of him. He put his junk away and moved on. Edit. Added exterior to clarify. This was an exterior window with a probably homeless dude on the outside of the glass, oblivious to the inside of the glass. Okay, so basically there was a lot of construction going on in our house, and one fine morning, I forgot to lock the fucking door before bathing. My back was towards the wall, but there was a glass vase by which I could see the scene behind. One of the workers accidentally got in and froze. During this time, I had the option of A, pretending I did not see him, B, shrieking for good God. I went with option A because my mom would have pretty much fired the poor guy who accidentally saw her daughter's butt. But he literally just stood there for 30 frozen, horrific seconds before running the fuck away. If you think that was awkward, imagine the guy working on our house and my room for a week after this. He couldn't look at me. I would constantly have a smile grimace hybrid on my face when I'd see him. And on the third last day when we crossed each other, and he gave me finger guns before scampering away like he'd seen an octopus with the face of James Franco. I was on family vacation to Hawaii when I was 9. For some reason, I didn't think anyone in the busy resort would notice me trying to stick my dick into one of the hot tub's water jets. Need to know what happened next? How did it feel? Come in, we need to know more. In 1,000 Ways to Die, some guy got his dick stuck in just that. It horribly disfigured his peen. Edit. My most upvoted comment is about a guy getting his dick stuck in a water jet. Never change Reddit. Never change it. IIRC, a fireman, had to manually help him pull it out with his hand. I once purchased sex toys online, including anal beads online. I came home to find the parcel containing these items open, sitting on my bed with a note from my mom saying, "Sorry, thought it was my parcel." The shame was unbearable, and I still cringe when I think about it. I tried to deflect by texting her to ask if she had any wrapping paper I could use for the joke, present I bought for my friend's 21st. Yeah. Oh, it was me. I was waiting for an online interview for an internship program, and while the interviewer was away, I remembered I still had my septum piercing on, so obviously I pushed it inside my nose before anyone noticed. As I was adjusting the hidden piercing, the interviewer got online and saw me basically picking on my nose like an asshole. We had an awful 5 seconds of silence before she decided to proceed with the interview like nothing happened. I got the internship and now have to avoid her around the company because she always seems to remember and look at me funny. Not my story, but my mom's. My sister had requested a cake from a specific shop that we'd never been to before, and Mom went in to order it. The kitchen was visible from the front of the shop, and one of the workers was icing a cake. He licked the spatula and continued icing. Mom saw everything. She still ordered a cake from that shop, and we ate it. It was when I was around 12, so I guess you can't judge another 12-year-old too much. But we were at day camp, and I look over, and one of the kids in our group is in the corner, just playing with his sack, without a care in the W world. I was the one getting embarrassed on this occasion. My housemate walked in on me while I was frantically beating off to Pornhub with my headphones on. He wanted to invite me out for dinner and budge into my room without knocking. We locked eyes for a solid few seconds. My hand was on my dick. I was stark naked boxer down at my ankles, seated on my chair. Nothing could have been done to avoid that scene other than to take it like a champ and just smile and ask what's up. He managed to utter out an oops my bad for his untimely invitation and closed the door. I was mortified, but I soldiered on to finish the job after he left. We are still friends till this day, and every time we think of the cringe-worthy occasion, we'd have a good laugh at ourselves, but mostly me. One day I decide to take a walk to this park near my house. I take my book, a couple of joints, good way to kill a summer's evening, right? So I go and find my favorite tree and climb up to a comfy position high up in the branches. Some guy is walking in the park and, well, clearly nature called. Without noticing me sat above him in the tree, he pulls down his pants and does a massive stinking turd, pulls up his pants without wiping and walks off, as if it's all cool. So I'm sat there, having seen everything, and now I have to climb down from a tree with a massive man turd right where I was going to climb down. Still a traumatic memory to this day. I use Duolingo to practice my Spanish while waiting for the bus each morning. When I'm alone, I like to say each question and answer aloud to practice my pronunciation as well. One day as I waited for the bus, a group of people gathered behind me without me noticing. I had headphones on and practiced each sentence out loud as I worked through my day's Spanish activities. When the bus finally came and I pulled off my headphones, I realized there were 6 or 7 strangers behind me. All had been awkwardly listening to me speak Spanish to myself for 5 minutes. I felt so embarrassed. Just last night, I'm at my parents' camp with my boyfriend and my cousin, and the 3 of us decide to take the golf cart out for a cruise around midnight. We parked in this quiet and dark spot that was across from a section of RVs to smoke a bowl for a few, and while we're smoking, I keep staring at this weird silhouette by one of the RVs trying to figure out what the hell it was. We sat there for about 10 minutes passing the bowl around, and I'm staring at whatever this thing is the entire time. When we decided to move on, I flipped the golf cart headlights on, completely illuminating this mystery silhouette that I've been staring intently at. It was a dude getting a blowjob. The girl slowly backed away while still bent over, and the dude just froze. Didn't even put his dick away. Neither one of them looked directly at us as we pulled away. Felt like a total creep when I realized I'd been watching a dude get sucked off for the last 10 minutes. One day at work, I had to fart really, really bad. This wasn't a silent fart I could crank out at my desk and blame on my geriatric coworker. I was legitimately afraid of blowing a hole in the back of my jeans. I got up and Penguin walked out the door, clenching my sphincter tightly. In the hall, I realized things were happening and I wouldn't make it into the restroom to let this monster out safely. I looked around and saw there was nobody in the hallway, so I sighed and let go the loudest, rumbliest fart I've ever produced. My coworkers probably heard it, but assumed it was a passing semi-truck blowing its horn. My stomach immediately felt better and my belt felt looser. That's how much gas was trapped in there. Satisfied, I turned around to see a woman from a different office standing in the hallway, still holding the door she came from. She wore a look of sheer horror, at once nauseated by my boorish behavior and disgusted with herself for feeling impressed at the magnitude of my flatulence. "Hello," I said, plastering a cheerful smile on my face, and I ran back to my desk and put my hoodie up. I never saw her again, so I just assumed she committed suicide after that day. Working in large corporate parks during the recession, there were lots of huge office spaces with barely any residency. They basically overbuilt these large office parks expecting businesses to fill them up. So it would be like a huge complex with maybe 2 or 3 functioning businesses in them. The best part about this was the fact that you could always find a restroom to take a shit in that nobody ever used. I went to a restroom on a building across from mine that had 0 occupancy. Every time I went over there, I never ran into anybody. One day during one of my particularly long shits, the timer on the lights turned off due to lack of motion. I thought no biggie, so I got up out the stall and attempt to move around. So the lights would come on. They weren't coming on, so I ventured further out near the sinks and started moving my hands in a hip-hop hooray motion while simultaneously saying, "Hey ho," just for shits and giggles. So the lights turn on and I'm still waving for a few seconds afterwards, thinking to myself how silly I must look with my pants and draws to my ankles in a public bathroom. Waving my hands in the air, that's when I heard the door close. Somebody had have walked into that bathroom and saw some businessman with his pants down his ankles, waving his hands in the air, yelling, "Hey ho," and decided to abruptly walk back out. One night, I was sleeping next to my then boyfriend and woke up because he moved. I noticed how he scratched his ass with the hand he had been hugging me and proceeded to smell his fingers, then putting his arm around me again, his hand very close to my face. It had this butt smell, you know what I'm talking about. Ugh, sexy. I came back upstairs after leaving for work because I forgot my phone. My dogs thought I was gone for the day and didn't hear me come back up. Walk into living room and my youngest dog is laying on his back and my older dog is standing right in front of young dog's butt sniffing. Not normal dog sniffing butt sniffs. Deep pronounced sniffing, as if he was a sommelier trying to determine a wine's country of origin. I laughed and both dogs looked at me in utter fear and embarrassment. Eyes were huge. You could see the shame in their eyes and one went to the couch and the other went to the bedroom. Neither looked me in the eye when I got home that afternoon.